Awakening. The Zerkari Dominion had ruled the Orion Arm for 3 millennia, their domain stretching across hundreds of star systems. Their military might was unrivaled, their technological supremacy unchallenged. In their museums and historical archives, they kept trophies from their greatest conquest, relics of a species called humanity, a primitive race that had dared to resist Zerkari expansion. The official history was simple. Earth had been cleansed, its inhabitants eradicated, its resources harvested. A necessary example to other species who might consider resistance. The human extinction was taught to young Zerkari as a cautionary tale. Defy the Dominion, and you will be erased from the stars. Talek, a junior xenorchaeologist, had always been fascinated by these extinct humans. Unlike his peers who saw them as nothing more than another conquered species, he found their resilience remarkable. The historical records showed they had fought to the last, despite being hopelessly outmatched. Earth had fallen, but not without inflicting significant damage on the Zerkari invasion force, unusual for a species with such primitive technology. "You're wasting your career on dead creatures," his superior, research director Vix, often chided him. "The Dominion needs minds focused on the future, not the past." But Talek couldn't shake his obsession. Something about the human story didn't add up. The historical records were too clean, too perfect. And there were gaps, inconsistencies he couldn't explain away. His breakthrough came during an expedition to the outer reaches of Zerkari space, investigating the ruins of an ancient outpost on a barren moon. The facility had been abandoned for centuries, its purpose forgotten. As Talek's team excavated deeper, they discovered a sealed chamber that had somehow escaped previous surveys. "Director Vix needs to see this," whispered Talek's assistant as they breached the chamber's interior. Inside was a perfectly preserved room with unfamiliar technology still humming with power after thousands of years. And on the walls, human writing. Impossible human writing that had been created long after the species was supposedly extinct. This outpost was operational at least 500 years after Earth's destruction. Talek realized, his heart racing. They survived. The central console activated as they approached, projecting a holographic interface. Talek hesitated, then pressed what appeared to be an activation symbol. The hologram shifted, forming into the image of a human female in a uniform. Automated log. Commander Sophia Chen, Earth Reclamation Initiative. The hologram spoke in accented but clear Zerkari. "If you are viewing this recording, you have discovered one of our monitoring stations. This message is specifically engineered for Zerkari physiology and psychology." Talek froze. The recording had anticipated Zerkari discovery. The human continued. "Your historical records are incorrect. Humanity was not exterminated. We retreated, scattered across pathways your people never thought to explore. This facility has been monitoring Zerkari expansion patterns for generations, gathering intelligence. We have been watching, learning, and preparing." The hologram's expression hardened. "The children of Earth have not forgotten. We have evolved beyond the humans you thought you destroyed. When we return, and we will return, the Dominion will understand what it means to face humanity's judgment." The recording ended, leaving Talek and his team in stunned silence. The implications were staggering. If humans had survived, had been watching for centuries, planning. "We need to inform High Command immediately," his assistant urged. Talek nodded slowly, his mind racing. "The timestamp on this recording. It's over 2,000 years old. If they were preparing then." The facility's alert system suddenly activated, blaring warnings. The ground beneath them trembled. "Proximity alert," announced the outpost's automated system. "Unknown vessels detected in orbit." They rushed to the surface just in time to witness the sky light up with the arrival of ships. Hundreds of ships, emerging from what appeared to be artificially generated spatial rifts. The vessels were unlike any Talek had seen before, their design utterly foreign to Zerkari shipbuilding principles. "Those aren't Dominion ships," whispered his assistant unnecessarily. No, Talek agreed, watching as the Armada moved with precise coordination. They're human. Within hours, the news spread throughout the Dominion. Long-range communications captured the initial encounter between the human fleet and a Zerkuri border outpost. The outpost had responded with standard procedure, demanding identification and threatening defensive measures if the unknown ships didn't comply. The human response was swift and devastating. Weapons of incomprehensible design reduced the outpost to atoms within seconds. Only one message was broadcast in perfect modern Zerkuri. We are the children of Earth. We have returned to collect a debt 3,000 years overdue. In the Dominion capital, the ruling council convened an emergency session. Ancient defense protocols, unused for millennia, were activated. The military, accustomed to minor policing actions against vassal species, scrambled to prepare for actual warfare. "How is this possible?" demanded Premier Gorks, the head of the Dominion government. "Humans were primitive. Their planet was sterilized. Our ancestors confirmed their extinction." Fleet Admiral Zex, the highest military authority, displayed tactical projections showing the human fleet's advance. "The evidence suggests they hid colonies beyond our explored space. They'd had 3,000 years to advance their technology and plan this assault." "One outpost," scoffed Councillor Mrek, the oldest member of the ruling body. "They destroyed one outpost, and you panic like hashlings. The Dominion has subjugated 100 species. We will crush these human remnants just as we crushed their homeworld." Admiral Zex's expression remained grim. "The outpost they destroyed was equipped with our latest defensive systems. The attack lasted less than 30 seconds. And Council," she hesitated, "there's something else. The humans are using technology that resembles theoretical projects our own scientists abandoned centuries ago as impossible." "Impossible?" Premier Gorks leaned forward. "Explain." "The spatial rifts they use to approach. Our scientists theorized similar technology 2 centuries ago, but couldn't stabilize the quantum matrices. These humans have not only made it work but weaponized it. And their ship's energy signatures suggest power sources orders of magnitude beyond our capabilities." Silence fell over the council chamber as the implications sank in. "We need to know their numbers, their capabilities, their weaknesses," Gorks finally said. "Dispatch reconnaissance drones, and send a battle group, not to engage, but to assess." "Already done," Admiral Zex replied. The drones were destroyed before they could transmit any useful data. "As for the battle group," she hesitated, "we lost contact with them an hour ago." The council erupted in outrage and fear. While they argued, Talek was brought before them, his discovery deemed critical intelligence. "They'd been watching us," Talek explained, describing the outpost, "learning our language, our tactics, our weaknesses. The recording I found was 2,000 years old, meaning they've had ample time to prepare." "But why now?" asked Councillor Prax. "Why wait 3 millennia to seek revenge?" Before anyone could theorize, the chamber's secure communication system activated. On every screen throughout the Dominion capital appeared the face of a human female, with features suggesting mixed ancestry from Earth's various regions. Her uniform was simple but elegant, with insignia unfamiliar to the Zerkuri. "I am Commander Maya Chen, descendant of Earth's survivors and leader of the Reclamation Fleet," she stated without preamble. "For 3,000 years, we have remembered what the Zerkuri Dominion did to our homeworld. For 3,000 years, we have prepared." She paused, her expression calm but resolute. "You believed us extinct. In your arrogance, you never looked beyond your borders, never considered that humanity might have escaped your genocide. While you stagnated, we evolved. While you forgot, we remembered." Displays throughout the council chamber showed real-time footage of another Zerkuri outpost, this one a major military installation, under attack. The human ships moved with impossible speed, their weapons cutting through Zerkuri defenses as if they were nothing. "This is not a negotiation or a declaration of war," Commander Chen continued. "This is simply notification that your debt has come due. The children of Earth have returned to collect. As the transmission ended, reports flooded in from across Zerkari space. Human ships had simultaneously appeared at 12 different locations, each attack precisely coordinated. Defenses that had never been tested in actual combat were proving woefully inadequate. "They're toying with us," Admiral Zex realized. "These are probing attacks, testing our responses. The main fleet hasn't even engaged yet." Outside the council chamber, the citizens of the Dominion's capital world watched in growing terror as more human ships appeared in their skies. The invaders made no move to attack the planet itself, instead forming an impenetrable blockade. Premier Gorks turned to Admiral Zex, his voice low but urgent. "What do they want? If it's revenge they seek, why not simply destroy our worlds as we destroy theirs?" Admiral Zex had no answer, but Talek, who had been quietly observing, spoke up. "The recording I found. It mentioned judgment, not extinction. I believe they want us to understand, to feel what they felt, to know we're powerless before them, just as they once were before us." As if confirming his theory, human ships began systematically neutralizing Zerkari orbital defenses and communications arrays. They didn't destroy civilian infrastructure or target population centers. Instead, they methodically disabled the Dominion's ability to coordinate a defense or call for help. The message was clear: we could destroy you completely, but we're choosing not to, yet. By nightfall, the Dominion capital was effectively isolated, its leaders trapped, its military scattered and in disarray. And this was just the beginning. The human fleet had established control over key strategic points throughout Zerkari space, cutting off reinforcements and supply lines. 3,000 years of Zerkari supremacy had been challenged in a single day, and the worst was yet to come. As reports of more human ships arriving continued to pour in, the Dominion leaders faced a terrifying reality. They were completely at the mercy of a species they had tried to exterminate millennia ago, a species that had clearly been planning its return for a very, very long time. The Ritigoning. The Zerkari Dominion military had not faced a true existential threat in over 2,000 years. Their warships, while impressive in parades and intimidating to vassal species, were untested in actual combat against a technologically advanced enemy. The human assault exposed this reality with brutal efficiency. Admiral Zex stood in the command center of the Dominion's flagship, the Eternal Glory, watching as tactical displays showed one Zerkari outpost after another falling to human forces. The pattern was always the same: precision strikes that disabled defenses, followed by capture rather than destruction. "They're being methodical," she observed, "taking key strategic positions, but leaving civilian infrastructure intact." Her second-in-command, Commander Kraz, nodded grimly. "They could have bombarded our homeworld from orbit by now. Instead, they've established containment perimeters around our major populations. They want something," Admiral Zex concluded. "This isn't just about destruction." On the human flagship Remembrance, Commander Maya Chen studied holographic projections of the Zerkari Defense Network. 3 millennia of evolution in isolated colonies had changed humanity in subtle ways. Their technology had advanced along paths never imagined by their ancestors, shaped by the harsh environments of their hidden worlds and the burning desire to one day reclaim what was lost. "Phase 1 is complete," reported her tactical officer. "We've secured control over 87% of Zerkari military installations. Civilian casualties are minimal." Maya nodded, her expression solemn. She was the 15th Commander Chen to lead the Reclamation Initiative. The position had passed down through her family line since the fall of Earth. Her ancestors had established the protocols she now followed, designed to be implemented when humanity finally grew strong enough to return. "Prepare the Lazarus Protocol," she ordered, "and bring the prisoner to me." Talek had been transferred to the human flagship hours earlier. Unlike the treatment he expected from conquerors, interrogation, torture, execution, he had been treated with clinical courtesy. Now he stood before Commander Chen, trying to reconcile the human before him with the primitive species from Zerkari historical records. "You understand why we've returned," Chen stated, not a question but an assertion. Talek nodded slowly. "Revenge. For Earth. Justice," she corrected. "There's a difference. Revenge would mean eradicating your species as you try to eradicate ours. Justice means accountability." She gestured, and a holographic display appeared between them, showing Earth, not the barren, radioactive wasteland of Zerkari historical records, but a living planet with blue oceans and green continents. "We call it the Lazarus Protocol," Chen explained, named after an ancient human myth about resurrection. "For 3,000 years, autonomous systems have been working to restore Earth's biosphere, rebuilding what your ancestors destroyed." Talek stared at the image in disbelief. "Impossible. Our records show Earth was rendered uninhabitable." "Your records were incomplete. Yes, the surface was devastated, but life is remarkably resilient, and humanity had already mastered the fundamentals of ecological engineering before your attack. The systems we left behind have been slowly healing the planet, molecule by molecule." She manipulated the display, showing time-lapse footage of Earth's recovery. Oceans gradually clearing, plant life returning, animal species reintroduced. "We could have settled new worlds, forgotten our origins, and left Earth as a memorial to your crime," Chen continued. "Instead, we chose to remember, to return, to reclaim." In the Dominion capital, panic had given way to a fragile calm as citizens realized the humans weren't conducting mass exterminations. Premier Orcs and the Council had been contained but not harmed, held in their own government complex under human guard. "If they wanted us extinct, we would be dead already," Gorks reasoned with his fellow counselors. "They'd want something else." As if in answer, every communication device throughout Zerkari space simultaneously activated. Commander Chen's face appeared, addressing not just the leadership but every Zerkari citizen. "People of the Dominion," she began, "I speak to you not as a conqueror, but as a messenger. 3,000 years ago, your ancestors attempted to erase humanity from existence. They failed. We survived, we remembered, and we have returned with 3 demands." The Zerkari watched in stunned silence as Chen outlined humanity's terms. "First, the Dominion will formally acknowledge the genocide committed against Earth and its people. The true history will be taught to every Zerkari generation to come. Second, the Dominion will relinquish control over all subjugated species within its territory. Each world will determine its own future without Zerkari interference. Third, a delegation of Zerkari leaders will travel to Earth to witness what was nearly lost and participate in a remembrance ceremony alongside human representatives." She paused, her expression softening slightly. "We do not demand your extinction or eternal servitude. We demand acknowledgement, atonement, and change. You have 24 hours to respond." As the transmission ended, debates erupted throughout Zerkari society. Many called for continued resistance, believing surrender would mean the end of their way of life. Others, seeing the overwhelming technological superiority of the human forces, urged compliance. Talek, still aboard the Remembrance, found himself in the unexpected position of intermediary. Commander Chen had granted him access to human historical records, the true account of what had happened 3 millennia ago. "Your histories claim we were aggressive, expansionist, threatening," Chen told him. "The truth is simpler. We were in your way. Earth sat at a strategic junction of what would become your trade routes. Taking our planet was convenient." Talek absorbed this information alongside evidence that contradicted everything he'd been taught about the conflict. "Our people should know this truth," he finally said. "That's why you're here," Chen replied. "We need someone who can translate not just our words, but our intentions to your people. Someone they might actually listen to." In the final hours before the human deadline, Talek addressed the Zerkari Council via secured transmission. He shared what he had learned, what he had seen aboard the human vessels. "They could destroy us completely," he concluded. Instead, they're offering terms that preserve our civilization while requiring us to face our past. This isn't surrender. It's an opportunity to evolve beyond the dominion we've been into something better. Premier Gorks listened intently. For 3,000 years, the Zerkari had defined themselves by their conquest of Earth and subsequent domination of nearby species. To acknowledge this foundation as fundamentally wrong would require a painful cultural transformation. "And if we refuse?" he asked. Talek's expression was grim. "They didn't specify. But Commander Chen showed me their capabilities. They developed technologies in isolation that our scientists haven't even theorized. If they choose to use that technology destructively." The implication hung in the air. As the deadline approached, the Council reached its decision. Premier Gorks would personally accept the human terms on behalf of the Dominion, beginning with a journey to Earth alongside a delegation of Zerkari leaders. The human vessels created another spatial rift, large enough for the Remembrance and several escort ships to transit with the Zerkari delegation aboard. The journey that would have taken months by conventional Zerkari methods took mere hours through what the humans called folded space. When they emerged, Earth waited, a blue jewel suspended in space, visibly restored yet bearing subtle scars from ancient wounds. Orbital platforms surrounded the planet, some clearly defensive, others appearing to be continuing the work of environmental restoration. As the ships descended into Earth's atmosphere, the Zerkari delegation witnessed sprawling wilderness interspersed with what appeared to be ceremonial sites rather than cities. Humans had not resettled their homeworld in large numbers. Instead, they had transformed it into a living memorial. The ships landed in a vast circular clearing surrounded by tall monoliths. Each stone bore thousands of names, an endless catalog of Earth's lost billions. At the center stood a simple platform where representatives from humanity's scattered colonies waited. The remembrance ceremony was broadcast throughout human and Zerkari space. Premier Gorks, following the carefully negotiated protocol, formally acknowledged the Dominion's genocide against Earth and pledged to honor the human terms. Commander Chen accepted this acknowledgement with solemn dignity. 3,000 years ago, two civilizations met in conflict, she stated. Today, we meet in recognition, not as conquerors and conquered, but as species who share a history and perhaps a future. As part of the ceremony, Zerkari representatives planted seedlings of earth trees alongside human participants, a symbolic gesture of renewal and cooperation. For the first time, members of both species worked together in Earth's soil. The galaxy watched in astonishment. Many had expected the humans to exact bloody revenge, to destroy the Dominion as the Dominion had tried to destroy them. Instead, they witnessed something unprecedented: justice without extinction, accountability without annihilation. In the weeks that followed, human forces began the careful process of dismantling the Dominion's control over other species. Some worlds celebrated their newfound independence. Others faced uncertain futures without Zerkari oversight. Human representatives provided technological assistance and mediation where needed, but largely allowed each world to determine its own path forward. The Zerkari themselves faced the painful process of national soul-searching. Their identity as the galaxy's supreme power had been decisively broken, but they had not been destroyed. Instead, they were being offered a chance to redefine themselves. Talek found himself appointed as the first Zerkari ambassador to Earth, a position created to maintain dialogue between the species. As he stood at the edge of a restored Earth forest, watching alien birds soar over trees grown from 3,000-year-old seeds, he reflected on the resilience of life and the long arc of justice. Was this always the plan? He asked Commander Chen, who stood beside him. Restoration rather than retribution. She considered the question carefully. Our ancestors debated that question for generations. Many wanted simple revenge, to do to you what you had done to us. Others argued for something more difficult but more meaningful. She gestured toward the forest. Earth itself became our teacher. Even after near-total devastation, life returned, adapted, found new balance. Our ancestors decided that should be our path as well. In the end, humanity had achieved something far more profound than mere vengeance. They had forced accountability without perpetuating a cycle of violence, demonstrated overwhelming power without succumbing to its corruption, and transformed an ancient wound into the foundation for a new beginning. 3,000 years after Earth's fall, humanity had not just returned, they had transcended the very concept of revenge, showing the galaxy a different way forward. And in doing so, they had proven themselves truly the inheritors of Earth's legacy, not just its past tragedies, but its enduring capacity for renewal.